So my father is an interesting guy. This is why I'm in therapy today, I think, and have a lot of problems.
Yeah, you never.
Tip of the iceberg. The point is that my father was B.F. Skinner's last doctoral student at Harvard.
So for people who don't know who B.F. Skinner is, because some people will not know who B.F. Skinner is, he was a famous behavioral psychologist. Was that what he's kind of behind?
He's the father of behaviorism, yes.
Yeah, and he was the one who was basically, explain the experiments exactly. Wasn't he known for doing some really horrible experiments to like children or something like that as well?
Well, yes, and I was one of those children.
Wait a minute, what? I'm just going to start the recording right now while Julian is just trying to get his headphones to work, because I think this is the kind of scintillating content that people are looking for from the Chris Haddad Show or from podcasts in general, right? Don't you think so?
I'm a writer, not a technical person.
Not a technical person, not a person who uses headphones.
Dude, you don't even understand how untechy I am. I'm the quintessential Jew in that regard.
I didn't know that was a thing, that Jewish people weren't good at technology. That's a whole new thing for me.
Small penis.
Yeah.
Not technical.
Yeah.
Loves money.
But by the way, folks, just so you guys know, before we get in deeper into the show today, Julian is going to talk about how small his penis is quite a bit. And he might start talking about how big my penis is, which is always a weird thing. When you bring that up, it's always the strangest thing to me. But we're not going to go there. That's not going to go there. We're just going to talk about
I thought we are going to go there.
I'm sure we will by accident, because you and I cannot have a conversation without it at some point devolving into dick jokes or comments about how small your penis is, which I always wonder, like, was that like a pickup technique for you back in the day to talk about how small your dick was? Like you would do that and then people would like want to come home with you just to be like, are you lying or not?
Not back in the day, but...
No. But now with your girlfriend, obviously.
No, yeah, but you know what? Not back in the day, but like as I got older, particularly like late 30s, early 40s, and I have a girlfriend now, but
you do, yeah, she's lovely.
I started I don't really want to talk about game here, but
we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. So the whole point of this show, Julian, as you know, like when I decided to do this show, what the world does not need, I don't think, is another, I'm going to have Julian Reyes on so we can talk about how to write a killer headline kind of show. I just don't think so. I think what's more interesting to people is like finding out more about who the people behind all this stuff are, right? Yeah. And like how we all kind of fell into this weird industry and how we became either copywriters or marketers or entrepreneurs or whatever, and get behind to the real people. And so that's why, so like that's why I kind of want to go with it. So we can literally go wherever we want with our conversation.
Well, now on that note, I can just say that, you know, for those who don't know, I started off as a pickup artist in New York City.
Yes. Actually, really quickly before we go any further, let me explain. I want to talk about the first time I remember meeting you. Right. So I'm sure we met before that. We've been friends for quite a long time now. I am personally extremely grateful to you because you are in so many ways largely responsible for me coming out of my health horrifyingly retirement and such. But we'll get into that, I'm sure. But the first time I remember meeting Julian Reyes, who I knew was Julian Fox at the time, was in, I believe it was probably San Diego, and it was at like TNC, and somebody was having a pickup artist / relationship advice mastermind that I went to. And while we're there, there's like 30 people in the room, quite a few of whom are women, mind you. And Julian is sitting there in the middle of the room with his laptop open with hardcore porn playing on the screen during the middle of the mastermind. And I was like, here's a guy who just doesn't give a motherfucking fuck whatsoever. Yeah.
I remember meeting you. I mean, obviously, I think we've known each other for a decade plus now.
Over a decade now, easy. Yeah.
Over a decade. But I don't remember the porn thing. However, sounds like me.
It does sound like, doesn't it? I have people that tell me stories about me sometimes where they're like, you did this thing. I'm like, I have no memory of that whatsoever, but it is the kind of thing that I would do. So I'm going to choose to believe you. So yeah, let's get into this a little bit. So you started off as a pickup artist. How did you get into this whole stuff in the first place? Because I know you worked with Vinda Carlo way back in the day, who had a huge offer named Pandora's Box back in the day. Like, how did this whole crazy marketing adventure, actually a couple different things. One, I know what your original career ambitions were, which was shocking to me when I discovered that your particular background, the background that you and I have in common when it comes to the theater and the acting and things like that, right? Like I would never have guessed that you were a theater person or a performer of any kind before I got to know you better. So how did you kind of go from like wanting to be? We'll talk a little bit about like how you got into the whole performing and wanting to go down that path in the first place, and then how did that transition over to crazy marketing world?
Well, what's funny, thank you for asking that, Chris, is that like I normally and I don't do these types of things very often
You
because
don't, yeah.
I am super busy, and people,
Yep.
you know, perhaps they're not like really that interested in me anyway. But
Honestly, Julian, hold on though. I have an Xbox next to my desk here, and so I know how often you're just online playing Hades. So you can't really like lie and say that you're busy all the time when I know for a fact what you're doing all day. Or
well, I'm busy
anyway.
trying to beat my record. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Well,
saying?
have you beat my record yet? Because I'm still at like 21 minutes. I don't think you've beat me yet.
I'm at 25 minutes. I'm at 25 minutes.
Someday you'll be a real boy. Someday.
What's your highest heat? Your highest heat?
20. 20. Yeah.
20 heat?
Yeah, 20 heat.
I'm at 11.
Well, you know, you got a long way to go. But anyway, continue what you're saying. So for those
Right,
for the video game nerds who are listening to this, they're all enjoying this quite a bit right now.
I'll share some stuff with you that I've actually never shared, like, you know,
Let's do it.
these interviews, which is I was like a really bad kid.
Really?
Really, really bad kid. Really bad kid. Like,
define really bad. Like, wait, did you get arrested? Did you like rape a squirrel at one point? What was the deal?
I'll take it back to the second grade or maybe the third grade. Normally kids who get suspended from school don't start getting suspended until sixth grade, seventh grade, not the second grade. I got suspended in the second grade because I was a bit of a class clown, and I was at the cafeteria lunch table, and it was hot dog day, and it was a bunch of boys at my table, and
you grew up in Massachusetts, right? Much like myself.
Yeah, this was Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm from Grafton, Massachusetts. We can both start talking with our accents right away if we want to, but we're going to stop there. Continue.
But so I took the hot dog. It was a hot dog day, and I don't know if you've ever peeled a hot dog, just the outer layer off of it. Yeah. But have you ever done that?
No, I have not ever found myself peeling a hot dog. That's not really the thing.
Try it.
Was that kind of like a big thing in Cambridge among the Jewish community? Was because like Jews don't eat pork, isn't that a thing?
I didn't even know it was pork. But the point is if you peel the hot dog, the under layer, it looks just like Freddy Krueger's skin. You know what I'm saying?
Like, makes sense.
Like the Freddy Krueger finger. So what I did was I peeled the hot dogs when no one was looking, and then I opened up my fly and I put the Freddy Krueger dog popping out of my fly, and then I banged on the table and said, "Everybody, quick, look under the table!" And then I started like waving the Freddy Krueger.
Wait, this was in second grade?
Second grade, and I got fucking suspended. I was the young.
Of course you did.
The record for the earliest suspension at Peabody Elementary School.
Do you think that is still a record that you hold all these years later? Because you're 40.
I certainly hope
43,
so.
44. Yeah, you're my age.
Certainly hope so.
Okay, so you were a bad kid in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Your dad is a psychiatry, psychology, is that kind of thing?
Psychologist. Wait, before I get to him, let me say, I'll tie him in and say, so my father is an interesting guy. This is why I'm in therapy today, I think, and have a lot of problems.
Yeah,
tip of the iceberg. The point is that my father was B.F. Skinner's last doctoral student at Harvard.
So for people who don't know who B.F. Skinner is, because some people will not know who B.F. Skinner is, he was a famous behavioral psychologist. Was that what he's kind of behind?
He's the father of behaviorism, yes.
Yeah, and he was the one who was basically, explain the experiments exactly. Wasn't he known for doing some really horrible experiments to like children or something like that as well?
Well, yes, and I was one of those children.
Wait a minute, what? Okay, so the story that I know, I'm trying to remember the exact B.F. Skinner stuff, but it was something having to do with almost Pavlovian responses or something, or was it something else?
It was exactly. It was pigeons. He's one of the real innovators around positive reinforcement. That's really
what it is. Yeah. Okay.
And with pigeons and mice. And so what Skinner did was he had several inventions. One of them is a semi-pornographic invention, but maybe we'll get into that later. It's a secret only me and my dad know about, and perhaps.
Oh my God, this is going to be a great episode. Thank you.
But the point is that Skinner had an invention which was called an air crib. It was like a special kind of it would enclose glass shutters. There was nothing, there was no bars or anything. Yep. And I believe the theory behind Skinner's theory was that because it seals the temperature, and we lived in Boston, it's very cold in the winter, that the child could always be naked, the child would always be free to move, and encouraging creativity and creative movement. That was the theory. And there was only a few kids, babies, that were in air cribs. I was one of them. The problem is, and why it was labeled as this dark, twisted, fucked up device, is because Skinner's daughter was also one of the subjects in an air crib. And later in life, in her 20s, she went nuts and had to be institutionalized and went crazy. So then the air crib was dubbed by the media as the Skinner box and sort of confused some of his experiments. So
the idea was like he would put them in there and there'd be an edge and the child wouldn't know that the edge was like, I'm trying, God, it's been so long since I said in any kind of BF Skinner stuff what was going on. But this explains something to me, knowing that you were a psychology experiment when you were growing up.
I was an experiment. And so that all happened. And then basically the trouble, like the hot dog, that, thing I described, that was the tip of the iceberg. I ended up, and this truly was an accident. When I was 12, I accidentally burned down a small building. And it's like, no, for real, it was in the news.
What?
And it was in the fucking news. And then they didn't catch us. Nobody got hurt. It was just like nobody was in it, but that shit collapsed. Yeah. And then my brother in family therapy snitched me out a few weeks later.
Older brother or younger brother?
Younger brother, little snitch. Mm-hmm. He snitched me out in family therapy. Next thing you know, I'm just gonna say it. They carted me. They put me in an ambulance stretcher, strapped me the fuck down when I was 12, and took me to a psychiatric hospital.
Well, crap. How long were you in there? That's and I thought I was the crazy one on this call.
3.5 years.
Wait. What? You were in the hospital for 3.5 years?
Well, I'm not in the hospital was like a month, but then they sent me to I was a little kid, an evaluation facility. And I basically spent the next 3.5 years in different types of institutions for naughty children.
Holy crap, dude. Do you think the BF Skinner thing had anything to do with that? Like the fact that you were experimented on by not a Nazi doctor, but certainly by somebody with his own ideas of how these things happen. Do you think that fucked you up in any way?
I really don't know. Is it possible? Yes. I think it's more beneficial, psychologically. I view all those challenges and hardships and impulsiveness and trouble I got into now is hey, I survived that shit. I can survive anything. I'm durable, man. And so I try to look at those things now from a very positive lens.
Let's talk about that for a second, actually, because that's a concept that I talk about a lot. Actually, the episode I recorded with Pauline yesterday, which came out last week, was a similar kind of thing. Because people know my own particular challenges I've been through with my own health stuff and whatever else. And I do find that people, and everybody goes through their shit, right? I don't believe in the whole woe is me. Anybody's stuff is worse than anybody else's. My life is amazing. For God's sake, we could be in Ukraine right now, whatever. But I do find that people who have been through significant health issues or gone to jail or had been kicked in the balls as hard as you can get by life, it sucks to go through that. But if you do manage to get through it, come out the other side, every day is a bonus day, right?
Yeah.
I think you become so much more grateful, and and the people that I know who have been through that are not the ones who are online showing off their hot cars and shit like that, right? Because I think your values, you cannot maintain those entirely materialistic show-offy values once you've been through fucking hell and come out the other side. I think
you're absolutely right. And also I've talked to my father about this in depth. Obviously he's a psychologist, and he studied what he calls resilience a lot. And what he found, particularly in young people, is that go through very traumatic experiences, like I guess I did, or you have in your life,
absolutely.
That some people, it breaks them.
Yep.
It breaks them. They become just paralyzed in life. They have developed, psychiatric issues. And then other people, it galvanizes them. It emboldens them. They become stronger. And it just depends kind of where you fall, right? It breaks some and it makes others.
Do you think that is do you think that's nature or nurture, or a combination of the two? Do you think some people are just naturally more resilient and have, like Carolyn Dweck, I think, would call grit, or would it be something that you think can kind of be learned based on the circumstance? I mean, I'm sure how you are parented or something must have something to do with that, right? As far as your resilience goes.
I think you already nailed it, man. It's just my opinion, and I am not a psychologist. I am simply the son of one, but I think it's probably a combination of both, like anything, right?
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So you were a bad kid. You were, sent away.
Oh, but the best part, wait, let me hear the culmination of the bad kid shit. Yeah. The peak of it all. I was 16. I had just gotten out of essentially juvie. I was pretty muscular because there's nothing else.
Was it juvie, like JEWV, like it was just for Jewish people? Because that's a joke. That's a joke that you would make.
You hijacked my joke. That was
I hijacked your joke. I'm sorry about that.
But No, I went to, my mom had to move several times to give me like fresh starts because I'd like
Yeah.
ruined, things in that town. So my mom moved to a small city outside of Boston called Wakefield. Do you know Wakefield?
Yeah.
Well, Wakefield, Massachusetts. And I went to the high school, and I was at that point at 16, I was like destined to, like, I wanted to be like a high level criminal thug gangster. And like, for real,
Really?
that was my dream. And the mafia,
Because you were raised, like, your dad had some money. It's not like you were like some freaking like punk on the street or something like that. Like,
never had money, but I was raised on Harvard campus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was raised
you
very
weren't poor.
really,
You weren't like, hustling the
middle
streets or
class.
something like that. Yeah.
No, I wanted to seek it out and, like, plummet to those depths. And so when I was
why do you think that was? Why do you think that young you wanted to do that?
If I had to really give you like a truly honest answer.
Of course, be honest. You always want to be honest with me. You know that.
Well, no, but this is the test of how honest can I be with myself, right?
Awesome. This is even better. Yeah.
I think if I had to really kind of probe deeply, I would say I think fear. Like,
fear
when I was a little kid, my dad taught me what nuclear war was at a very young age, and I figured out at a premature age that I was going to die. And I developed an obsession for years with armor and knights and bulletproof vests and ways of.
That's really crazy, because the studies and such show that really the concept of mortality is not a thing that children can really get their brains around, right? Even up into your early 20s, they say the concept that you could actually die is really, really difficult for human brains to even get around. So how do you think it was that happened for you or caused that level of anxiety?
I don't know how, but I know that I was, according to my father, it was a very premature discovery of that. Apparently I cried for days. Actually have some vague memories of it, for days straight, and wouldn't get out of the bathtub. I don't want to die. And that kind of led to this obsession with being able to protect myself from the dangers of the world. So I picked up boxing in my teens. I wanted to be a gangster, because to me, I think all of those things were just ways of insulating myself and protecting myself from the terrifying realities of life. So I think because
again, we're going to talk about the theater stuff in a minute, and I want to get there, but what was your feelings around your own masculinity growing up? Did you feel secure in that? Did you ever did people ever call you, because we're in Massachusetts, a fucking faggot or something like that? Or like, how was that for you? Because the toughness thing can often come from that as well, right? From this feelings of trying to be a man, basically.
I think there's definitely a compensation, piece there that happens. For me, like, I think I felt very scared, for most of my kind of early childhood and early adolescence. But then, I went to juvie and spent these years and picked up amateur boxing and started doing things to try and combat that fear, and working out and putting on muscle to fight that fear. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the tough guys that are out there are actually become tough guys because they are the most afraid. And so they do.
It's much like people that become therapists are usually trying to work on their own shit, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
I always, real psychiatrists, therapists, even when I did the Michael Fiore stuff, it was like, I'm horrible at relationships. Let me learn how to be good at them by teaching it.
Right.
Also, it was a fun way to make money. But,
right. Exactly. That's well said, man. So wait, but let me finish the last point, which is the culmination, because this is fucking interesting. I'm in Wakefield. I'm 16 years old. I'm a strong kid. And I wanted to be this, this thug. I had a hero. His name was Paul Allen. He's still in prison today. He's probably in his late 40s or mid 40s.
So he's not the co-founder of was it Microsoft? No, Paul Allen. Yeah, Paul Allen.
No, not that Paul Allen. No, but he was like, just the toughest kid I ever met, and he was involved in armored car heists at 16 years old. And but the point is that was the person I was kind of emulating. And when I was 16, I built which was essentially my first business, which was, a small scale drug dealing organization. I had 7 or 8 kids in the high school I was supplying them, and they were.
So you were a full on criminal.
Oh my God. And I was a juvenile, but I was getting close to being adult legally. And I had all that going on. And at one point I acquired a 22 caliber pistol. like
Oh my
like it was
God,
a
dude.
22 Phoenix Arms pistol. I never had any bullets for it, but at one point, after I could feel like I could just feel that I was getting kind of hot, and that I was being watched. I had this, and I also wanted to like just change. My high school, or excuse me, my elementary school principal, where I pulled out the Freddy Krueger wiener years earlier when I was a little boy, he used to say, "Julian, for you, it's Yale or it's jail." And when I was 16, that I had a dream. I hadn't remembered it in years, but I remembered Mr. Walker saying that to me. And I thought, all right, let me change this shit up before it's too late. I'm almost legally an adult. What I didn't know was at that time, the Wakefield police, in conjunction with apparently some department of the FBI, put a narc into all of my classes at Wakefield High School.
Shit.
His name was Kevin Fowler. He's a captain today at some.
So was he like a 25-year-old pretending to be 16 or something, or what?
It was like in that movie 21 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street, yeah, or the old show.
That happened to me.
Holy
that
shit.
fucking happened to me. He was in all my classes. He made friends with me over weeks. He was giving me rides places. And
did he seem young enough, or were you just like, who's this guy with the beard who's like supposed to pretend to be 14?
He looked a little bit older, but he was a very good actor. Like I even remember he was giving me a ride. This is how stupid I was and how good he was. He was giving me a ride one day, and I noticed in his windshield there was a sticker that said Emerald Police Society. And I was like, hey, Kevin, what's that on your car? And he didn't miss it.
So smooth, right? Yeah.
He was like, oh no, my father had that. He gave me this car to me. And honestly, I just leave it on because it helps get me out of tickets. And I was like, all right, I kind of bought it.
That's smooth.
Bottom line,
that is smooth.
Fast forward, at one point, ironically, I was actually trying to get out of that life. And I offered to sell the 22 to Kevin, the undercover cop.
God. Holy crap.
So I even showed it to him, and he took it and he looked at it, and he didn't have the $200 I was asking for it at the time. So he's like, oh, I'll buy it from you tomorrow. And the next day I walked into midterms at Wakefield High School. I was a sophomore, and I'm in a room with about 500 people and, doing midterms, a big high school. And all of a sudden this lady walks in. I've never seen her before in my life. And she points directly at me and she says like that. And I said, I was a little punk, right? I said, is it good or is it bad? And then she just did this again. And I started to walk down in front of all these hundreds of students towards her direction. And as soon as I got to the front of the auditorium, I looked out and saw my buddy, Kevin Fowler, in full police uniform with like 3 other detectives. He said, sorry, Jay, because they called me Jay back then because Julian sounded too effeminate to me.
Yeah, totally.
And then they cuffed me. They took me into the principal's office. They waited 20 minutes for the bells to ring. So the hallways were flooded with students.
For maximum humiliation.
They parade. Yeah, but that was like the coolest day of my fucking life. I felt like Al Capone, man. And then that was it. But then they ended up botching the investigation. They raided the house. They didn't find the gun. They didn't find anything. I never kept anything in the house. So we plea bargained. I got out of it with a slap on the wrist, just a suspended sentence. And then I was like, yo, fuck this crime shit. I want to be a musical theater actor.
And so you actually got scared straight, right? Like you actually got like, okay, screw this. I've decided that I'm going to get out of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to if they had actually caught you. Well, here's the fucked up thing, right? Like theoretically, it's about, we're supposed to take kids who are in trouble and we're supposed to rehabilitate them and send them to be productive members of society. If they had actually convicted you, you would not currently be a productive member of society, most likely, right? Like you would have gone down a much darker path, and you would have been, depending on if you're a juvenile, who knows? But if you were an adult, you would have been banned from getting jobs at like so much shit. Like,
sure.
Our system sucks, is what I'm saying. Okay, so how did this musical theater thing happen then? Like, how do you go from being like they have to call me Jay instead of Julian because Julian is too effeminate, to being in what is considered, especially in freaking Massachusetts, unacceptably feminine theater?
Super gay.
It's especially in Massachusetts, that is considered super duper gay. Like you just there's no way.
Super gay.
Because I was in theater in high school too, and it was like I was like me and one other boy who were in theater. It was all girls otherwise. Which when the football players would make fun of us, it'd be like, but all the girls are here. Like you okay, cool, whatever. Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly how it happened. It's not a glamorous. It's kind of cheesy, but when I was 14 and I was in one of those institutions, one night they had a special party night, and there was a karaoke contest, and I ended up winning the karaoke. I got a Walkman, and I came in first place. So I was like, I guess I could sing a little bit. And when I got kicked out of high school for the drug bust, because even though I ended up, essentially getting out of it legally. I was
there were
banned
still repercussions.
I was banned from high school at 16, and I didn't even finish sophomore year. So I knew I could sing, and then one day, we're gonna get real gay right now. I watched A Chorus Line the movie, and there was this one performer in it. It's not a great movie now when I look at it, but there's this one guy who's a black guy who sang this song called Surprise. And it's about the first time he had sex, but he was dancing, like moving brilliantly through the song and singing it beautifully. And I was like, man, that looks fucking magical to me. And
so you had never been an actor before. You'd never performed really. You were just being a thug. And then all of a sudden, this is like a Hollywood story. Like, like Brad Pitt would tell this about when he was a thug, he was headed in a bad way, and then theater saved his life. That's all.
Yes. Think of me as a fatter, much less successful version of Brad Pitt. But the point is that
his penis isn't very big either. So,
I certainly hope not, because that man has too much as it is.
He does.
But so I just got suddenly very passionate about it, and I started taking singing lessons and dance classes and acting classes. And within probably 6 months, maybe less than a year, I applied to the Boston Conservatory, which at the time was the second best and most competitive.
No, it's a very, very good school.
Musical theater program in the country. It was the only school I applied to.
Hold on. How? That is, listen, I've got enough of a theater background. I have no voice. I can't say much to save my life, but I've got enough of a theater background to know that is not an easy school to get into for anybody. And you coming in and getting that when you had no background, no experience, no shows under your, I've never heard you sing. It must be like an angel or something, but holy crap. How did that happen?
Give you a little serenade later, but I had some talent. I had a good look for it. Like it's a little easier for guys, right?
Absolutely.
And also, a lot to keep the theme on like the effeminate, a lot of the guys who go into musical theater professionally are kind of effeminate. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, they're just gay guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're like sort of stereotypically.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but there's a wide. I don't want to say there are a wide variety of gay guys and how they present. Blah blah blah. I don't mean that. But they are stereotypical. Yeah.
Producers and directors don't want that. In fact, we had sophomore year. This was very sad. At the conservatory, every sophomore year they have your big jury, and they always cut 1/3 of your class gone.
Wow.
Like kicked out after that. And I had several friends who were very talented, but they just, they kind of flutter on the stage a little bit.
Too flamboyant, yeah.
Who were cut for that. Now, legally, I wonder, is that even like okay now? But
well, it is in theater, because like theater and like LA is a similar thing. It's one of the very, very few jobs where you can be legally prejudiced against for being fat or being thin or being tall or being short or being black. Yeah, because it's like, well, the part requires this, right? Like like you simply that's just what it is for that particular kind of thing.
Interesting. Well, from there, just to wrap up put a button on the story, I got into the conservatory, which was amazing. And I didn't have a high school diploma. My audition went very well. I sang 2 songs and 2 monologues, one classical, one contemporary. And then they called me over right after the audition, and they said, what's up we don't see any SATs or high school diploma here. I said, I'm going to get my GED. Don't worry. And I got it that summer, and I went to the conservatory and I graduated. And
so how many years was the conservatory?
4 years, a 4-year BFA
full on school. Yeah. Okay.
And then I moved to New York. And then I did a little television, little commercials. I was in a TV show on Comedy Central called,
what's it called?
It's called Good God. And I think on Vimeo, there's still a couple clips of me on there from the show. This was 15 years ago or whatever, 17 years ago.
I'm looking it up on the internet right now.
Yeah. It's the writing wasn't great, but it was kind of cool. And
it's not coming up. Okay. Yeah.
And then it's on, I'll send you a link after.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
The point is that, but the cool thing was I became, I guess my like biggest thing that I did in theater was I booked a show called Baby, which was slated for Broadway. And I was Chad Kimball's understudy. Chad was the lead, but when he got sick, I went on, and Chad's a Tony, the whole cast were Tony winners or Tony nominated actors, including Chad. And that was it. But the truth is, I had a flaw. Like what I do now, which is very similar to obviously what you do. I'm actually a lot better at. Like I was really good, but I wasn't really consistent. I could be really great in one audition and then blow the next, or performance wise. So it wasn't really, I think, something that like harnessed like whatever is my strongest talent. You know,
I think that was a passion thing at all? Because like my background too, I think we both come from a similar thing, right? So when I was growing up, I did some theater and I always wanted to be a writer, right? Like I was always a good writer. Writing was what I was kind of into. I moved to LA after college and tried to become a television and film writer for a while, did all that stuff, and then discovered marketing. And I was like, this is what I'm in love with, right? Yeah. Like this is where like not only my creative juices are being stimulated, but also my competitive juices and my just like, and the tactical minds of the marketing stuff. Like that's when I really fell in love. And I felt, maybe you had this too, I felt guilty about it for a while, because I was like, I'm supposed to be a quote unquote artist, but now I'm doing this other shit, which is more commercial and shit.
We sold out, right?
Yeah, we sold out. Yeah, and I'm incredibly happy personally. I remember years ago when I was more cynical, I decided I wasn't an artist, and I became a much happier person because I was like, I'm going to go creatively. I don't need to write a great novel or write movies or something. I can do what I'm doing here. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I feel you on that entirely, man. Like, you know, for me, just like the journey into like marketing, copywriting, and this is really a testament to Vin DiCarlo.
Yeah.
Ryan is that, you know, he was quite visionary in the sense where he knew, like after, you know, the musical theater thing, I'm in New York, you know, I started working at a male strip club because I was in good shape back then. I was about 60 pounds ago. But
did you like stuff your jock when you were doing that? Because, you know, to make more.
Oh, I had no choice. I had no choice.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I started off as a massage boy. But quickly the owner figured out a lot of, you know, no offense to my old male stripper buddies, it was Hunk Mania was where we worked, but
nice.
A lot of them weren't.
Was it a gay guy? Was it a gay strip club, or was it a women?
No, this was for women. This was bachelorette parties, birthday girls, but a lot of the male strippers after would go do a gay show at a gay club, because that's where the money.
That's where the money. Same much like with guys that get into the porn end up doing gay porn because the money's
right. Exactly. So I did that, but I was kind of looking for a purpose. I saw I noticed this thing. I was good with girls, and I noticed that. And one of the reasons I was good with girls, fun fact about the conservatory was, you know, I didn't have a lot of confidence with women when I went into the conservatory.
Oh, sure.
By the time I came out, I had tremendous confidence, and it's not because I was so great with women at that point.
There's no guys there. Yeah.
It was just, talk about scarcity. Yeah. I literally had 2 girls show up. Do you know Catherine McPhee? Do you remember Catherine McPhee?
Yeah, the actress, right? Yeah,
very the actress, the singer. One day, Catherine McPhee, I had never spoken 2 words. She was at the conservatory. She was a freshman. I was a senior. I had never spoken 2 words to the girl. I've noticed her. She's beautiful.
Yeah,
totally. She literally shows up to my apartment. How'd she find out where I lived? Yeah. Knocks on my door with another chick. They come in. I'm like in a towel. I just showered. I'm like, hi, what's up? And we sit down, I give them like a wine cooler or something, like box wine or whatever we drank back then. And they literally said, you know, Julian, we don't have a lot of options here at the conservatory. We'd like to have a threesome with you. And that's what Catherine fucking McPhee. That was what the reality was. So if there's a straight guy, if you're a young straight guy,
totally, yeah, makes sense.
You want to get laid and boost your confidence, go to a musical theater fucking program. The girls,
she has a much older husband. It looks like now.
Yeah, he's in his 70s, I think.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy. Well, anyway, yeah. Well, you know, for Catherine McPhee, if this is hearsay, then don't sue us or anything because we're. There's videos of us together. There's a documentary about me and her from college. A friend shot. There's a documentary about you and Catherine McPhee from
Catherine
college.
McPhee and the other girl in our little weird love triangle.
So basically, it was wow. That's you have an interesting love life, my friend. Yeah. Okay, so you went to the conservatory. You got out of it. You were the understudy for this guy for this particular show. You get out of that. What was the transition? How did you end up meeting Vin? How did you end up getting into this stuff? What happened?
I'm on the subway one night coming home from Hunk Mania.
Yep.
And
that's a great open to a book right there, right?
Yeah. Great opener, right? Great first line. And I don't know, I see some random dude, and I'm a very friendly person, and we just kind of start chatting, and I ask him what he does, and he's like, oh, I'm shooting a documentary on like pickup artists in New York. Now I didn't know much about the pickup artist thing at that point. It was so new.
So what year
But
was this? Was this before the game came out or after the game
no,
came
this
out?
was shortly after. This was like, I'm gonna say 2005.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, bro, you want me in that documentary? Trust me. And we started chatting more. We exchanged information. He's like, well, I'll have to film you, like to see, you know, I'm gonna have to follow you around the camera and let's see what you can do. So I let him do it. I let him, a couple days later, he filmed me just walking up to girls on the street, and he was like, dude, you're in the documentary. And
so do you think the reason you were good was not because, again, you were in the conservatory for so long, so you were in a you were high value, right? Like there was not many straight men in there. Do you think you just became fearless because of that? Because you just started to see women? Because so many guys are just scared of women, right? They think that beautiful women are these like terrifying kind of things. They don't understand that beautiful women often just never get approached, right? Because so many guys are just terrified from them, right?
Well, think about, yes, for me, I'm going to say environment, because I'm at the conservatory where I'm having threesomes with Cat McPhee, right? And then, and I have my pick. And then all of a sudden I'm in New York and I'm working at Hunk Mania, a room of 6 guys and 200 to 300 women in their 20s. Okay. So now it's
drunk too. Yeah.
And I'm not a stripper. I'm the guy selling the manwiches, selling the hot seats, interacting with the girls. I'm not the man whore. And so I was suddenly in another environment where there's just tremendous abundance and scarcity of men. So I think that was a big factor for sure.
And it allowed you to just kind of get comfortable with women, right? Like you're, becoming, like I say many of my best friends are women and whatnot, and that has been a wonderful thing in life. Okay, so you're working at Hunk Mania, you meet this guy for the pickup artist thing, and then all of a sudden you just become a pickup artist out of kind of
just like that, because he shoots me, and that's from him. I realized that there's this emerging industry, and that's in its infancy really. And I read the game, and then one day he's like, I'm going to make you one of the 2 stars in this documentary, Julian, and I'm going to introduce you to another guy. And that's how I met Carlo. Mm-hmm. And from there, he and I became very best friends, in fact. And I could see very quickly that like this, I mean, I was working at a fucking strip club trying to get acting jobs, but I could tell that this guy was like, look, man, this pickup thing's cool. We got to get good at marketing. And I was like, what's marketing? And the way I got known, which perhaps you remember, was before I knew anything about marketing, was I went up to Neil Strauss, the author of the game, and I challenged him to a friendly pickup contest. I do want to reach out to him, all these years later, and actually apologize for that.
Oh, wow.
But
you call him out like in front of people and such too?
Oh, on camera in front of.
Oh man, that is a douche move. Yeah.
Total douche move. And I take full responsibility. Okay. I was 24, 25 years old. 42 years old now, almost 43. And sorry, Neil, but that's how I kind of like broke in and had something of a name in that space.
How did Neil react when you did that?
Badly.
I believe it.
He was not prepared.
I mean, I'd be pissed. What I would do in that, and what I think you would do in that situation too, because we're both pretty quick-witted, is I would just start making fun of you for something and find a way to make it like a.
Right. I know you would have been like, what's your name? Why don't you come back when I fucking heard of you, kid?
Exactly. Yeah. Something like that, right? Just to fuck with them. Yeah.
Instead, I think he was surprised, and he said, ask Mystery. Mystery is the one who likes to do those things. But little did Neil know that I had already captured some footage of what looked like me, that I was stealing a girl from Mystery in a nightclub. Now, and then I spliced those 2 videos together. It went viral, in 2006 or whatever.
So it never actually happened that way. You just found a way to use some creative editing to hitch onto his fame at the time and kind of make it
100%. And
fair enough.
And I'll admit it. I'm going to admit something I've never admitted publicly, and this is part of my apology to both Neil and to Eric, to Mystery. Is that girl that I apparently stole from Mystery? I knew her ahead of time. She was a bit of a plant, because I wanted the footage. I wanted to break in.
Absolutely. I get it.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Well, I'm sure when Neil and Mystery are watching us or listening to my show, that they will be like, okay, fine, Julian, I finally forgive you.
I bet Neil's gonna watch your show for sure.
Possible. Who knows?
Yeah.
I've only met him very, very briefly in passing once many years ago. And honestly, I wasn't impressed because it was at some conference and he was walking around with like 2 hot girls in dresses on his arms, like just to me, like, I just don't like that shit. I find it very, when I see people doing that kind of thing, I just think, oh, you're obviously extremely insecure about something.
Right.
Because my theory on life in general is the more somebody brags about something, the less they believe it. Because I know from my own narcissism that's true.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I my own narcissism too.
Yeah.
But all of these events that I described, from being one of BF Skinner's guinea pigs to building burning down, to the musical theater, to the Hunkmania guide, to pickup parties, all of that is what led me ultimately into the marketing, entrepreneurial copywriting game. And now we're here.
That's crazy. So you worked with Vin for a while, and that must be how I met you back in the day.
10 years.
Yeah, and Vin had Pandora's Box, which at the time was the biggest. I mean, he was doing like 5 or 6 million a year or more in, like, I don't know the details, but he was doing extremely well back in the day, right?
Do you want me to tell you the details?
Please do. Yeah, if you feel like you can, please do.
He wouldn't care at all now, but he's so far sort of past that phase of his life. But no, so we launched. So it was me, and what not everybody knows, but it was actually me and Vin, me and Ryan, who wrote all the VSLs. Right, we wrote all the VSLs for it. It was just us. That was our like deep bond, because he's the one who got me into it, but I got sort of up to speed pretty quickly.
Sure.
And we wrote all of that. So Pandora's Box, that I think in 2010 when it first launched via the Syndicate, it was the first Syndicate launch. Remember the Syndicate? All the little seduction companies.
Oh, I do. Yeah. So I still check that email list every once in a while. Yeah.
I don't remember how much it grossed. I think it was probably a couple $1 million in 2010, but by 2012, it grossed $35 million. Pandora's Box alone.
Well, I know you guys had that. You had a pretty crazy. I always remember going through the Pandora's Box funnel back in the day and seeing the brilliantly unethical, but brilliant nonetheless, forced continuity that was attached to Pandora's Box. And the way it was phrased, it was like
just $14.95 a week, billed monthly.
Yeah. And I thought that was the most brilliant and evil thing I had ever seen in my entire life, because from a pure psychology standpoint, that changed. Like, you found a way that you could just like actually say a cheaper number and anchor folks on a cheaper number that was not lying. Right? Like, the forced continuity is, I'm glad we don't do that kind of thing anymore, but certainly that brought a lot of money in, but crazy. Yeah.
First off, I'd love to take credit for that, because I have come up with some pretty neat ideas, some of which were perhaps a little evil as well, but that was actually Ryan. That was Ryan's copy, Ryan's idea. So
it was a cool idea. It was a nefarious little idea. I'm sure it worked extremely well.
He's one of those people like that's not like well known in the IM space. No, the gangsters like yourself and a handful of other people, they know who he is. And he was he was never a guru. He was one of the, I call them ghosts and gurus. He was a ghost, but a truly visionary.
Well, a lot of the most successful people, one of the reasons I never really wanted to do the guru thing, it's like, well, I'm kind of busy doing it, like off in the background.
But that's why here's the thing, like, can I speak frankly?
Of course you can. Yeah. That's what
as if I haven't already.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to say I have a prejudice towards quote unquote gurus, because there are exceptions where there are some like yourself who have been on the fucking front lines, who have written and scaled offers. Like, I mean, how many verticals have you had the #1 fucking offer?
Many. And again, it's like, and it's not, and it's in niches that are not how to make money. Right. Because to me, how to make money is the easy niche. Right. I
was talking to Paris the other day, and
Paris Lampropoulos, of course. Yeah.
Lampropoulos, of course. And he's a very close friend of mine. And he, I don't think Paris would mind me saying this, but there was a couple of very well-known writers that have a pretty big name now in this space. And there's like, their copy to me, it's
not that great. Yeah.
It's not great. But when you came up, he gushed. he fucked Paris, and Paris, one of the OG legends in the.
He is. No, I mean, the first time Paris, Paris did a testimonial for me for my Pick Method course before I did it. And that was an incredibly humbling thing because I got videos from you and a bunch of other people, but Paris, having Paris Lampropoulos, the legendary Paris Lampropoulos and the legendary David Deutsch, but Paris talking about my ability to write emotional copy and how he admired that was an incredibly humbling, crazy experience.
You want to know what he said to me about you, which I don't think he put in the testimonial.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I don't think he'd mind me sharing it. He said, Chris Haddad is the only writer I've ever met who can completely skip the research phase and still write something brilliant. And I'm in awe of that ability. That's what Paris said about you.
Yeah, I believe that is actually true. He said something similarly in front of me where he was talking about how he said something about like how I understand the market so deeply and can connect with them so deeply that you can kind of move past that. And that's just my ADD and my bipolar making research the most boring thing in the world. I think I actually, some of my biggest successes are things where somebody else brought the research to me.
Right.
And said, like, here it
I'm
is.
the same way, bro.
Yeah.
And I think part of that honestly is because you and I cut our teeth initially, like in the dating kind of space, where if you're
what are you going to research? What are you going to research?
Yeah. So like,
I just read a lot of books about psychology and then wrote some products and then you go and do it. Yeah.
Now, luckily, I have a business partner and a team of writers that are better at research than I am, and they do that, and I can sort of piggyback off of their research.
Well, let's talk about that briefly, actually. Like, let's actually talk about business advice to people a little bit for a second instead of the others, because I think this is all interesting. It's just the learning that you don't need to fucking be good at everything, right? Like that you can't be good at everything, and that the key to success, like even in my business right now, right? I have 3 full-time employees. We have some other companies we're working towards, and they all understand what I'm good at and what I suck at. Right? Yeah. They're like, we need Chris for writing. We need Chris for getting on camera and doing things and a few other big idea things. And Chris is horrible at anything detail oriented. And if you make him do that kind of shit, it will be set on fire and explode. Yeah. And that's a great thing to be able to hopefully create in your own business as you're kind of developing your career, whatever you're doing.
I have Chris, we've been knowing each other for a long time. In the last couple of years, I think we've really gotten to know each other a lot.
Absolutely. More. It's been great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think I would consider you one of my best friends at this point, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Same, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a warm moment on the podcast today. Yeah, it's the love cast. Yeah.
I love you, bro. But I think part of the reason that we have become very close is because I think we're more alike than people might realize. Because
I agree. Yeah.
Somebody said to me, a friend, actually he's not a friend anymore. It's my former buddy.
That guy.
The guy over the,
Yep. I know the story. We're not going to tell that story, but
I'm not going to tell that story. But he used to say he had like a brilliant grandfather he's 100 years old. And he said that the most important thing he ever learned from his grandfather used to say, the secret to life is figuring out what you're not good at and then figuring out how not to do those things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like for me, like I puttered along in business, from 2007 really, where I didn't make any money until it was 2010. But I put it along.
That's when my Michael Fiore stuff took off, and all of a sudden I was making millions of dollars. Was around
2010,
2011. 2010 was the Rachel Ray thing. 2011, I made a lot of money. Yeah.
I remember the Rachel Ray. I had a huge crush on her. Like when she has
younger. A huge mouth. I mean, from being within 2 feet of her, she has a very, very large mouth. That's not. I'm not making any kind of statement about values of that, but it's a very large mouth.
Well, I can just say, that's not really appeal. I'll get lost.
Fair enough.
Like, hello. But I was just going to say that, like, for me, my own trajectory was like pretty much from 2007 to 2010, like there was no revenue, there was no business, even though I was trying to study and learn shit. 2010 through 2015, there was pretty low revenue because Pandora's Box, although I, am one of the 2 writers of the marketing.
We didn't own it, right? Yeah.
I never got a dime. We were just like best friends, and
wait, you weren't even like working for him? You weren't even drawing a fucking salary?
No, not a salary.
I assumed you were working with him at least and getting some kind of pay.
A lot of people don't know this. I never made a dime from Pandora. What our deal was because he had more marketing knowledge and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But Julian, help me as a friend, and then like we'll build this thing up, and then I'll help you back. The helping back thing never actually really happens, but it doesn't matter. Being in that sort of marketing laboratory for 3 years, like super tight, was the greatest, most the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. But just to tie it back, I puttered along for many years where I was, by 2015, I think my business was grossing like top line, $1 million a year, maybe
wow,
million
not great.
five.
Not great compared to what I was doing, for instance, at the time.
So, which means like, because everyone always quotes top line, right? Which is
which I despise, right? Like I like. Well, like for me personally, I make a point. Like I make a point of in this business of always trying to tell the absolute truth. Like we were talking before about my launch, my Pig Method launch, and you're like, dude, I heard you did almost $1 million. I'm like, well, I did about 700 grand, right?
Yeah.
And like, sure, that is almost $1 million, but it's also not. And I think it's important to be honest, because so many people just bullshit all the time. Like I did 100 million last year. I'm like A, you're lying, and B, you didn't get any of that money, so who cares?
Listen, I have a good friend. I'm not going to say any names, but who's behind probably the biggest supplement offer, or one of the biggest supplement offers, I'll say, like of the last decade. Yeah. And it did insane numbers. It did 9 figures, in less than a year. And like everybody's like worshiping, but he's a friend of mine. I won't say any names here, but they lost money.
They lost money. They lost money.
They lost
wait, money. How much did they lose?
Let's say less than $1 million, but they're still.
But they did over $1 billion in sales and came out of it negative.
Not $1 billion. They did 9 figures. So they
oh, sorry. Yeah. 100 billion. Yeah. But either way, there's a lesson there, man. There's a lesson there, which is because again, people in this business, they throw out numbers all the time, right? Like number. And there's the old adage, like it's not what you make, it's what you keep. I've always been extremely proud of the fact that the first year I made 7 figures, I saved 7 figures, right?
Which is incredible. All I'm saying is top line is such a bullshit metric.
It doesn't matter.
Everybody quotes top line.
All that means is you made Facebook and Google richer.
Yes.
Right?
There you go.
Right? Like that's all you made your affiliates richer or whatever, which is great or whatever else. But that doesn't mean anything. It just means you pushed money through a funnel and you didn't get any out of it. Yeah.
Exactly, man. So like, but for, I guess just to tie it back, I was doing $1 million, $1.5 million top line, which means, realistic. If I'm doing $1 million, I'm probably walking with 200 grand, 250 grand in that ballpark. And then the key, and I kept trying to work on the business, but I wasn't particularly disciplined.
Playing a lot of video games. Yeah.
Playing a lot of video games and making love to a lot of women poorly.
Sure.
And then, late 2017 or 2018, I met Andrew.
Yeah. And Andrew Contreras, who's Julian's a fantastically brilliant partner. Yeah.
Yes, he really is. And more importantly, he's brilliant in ways that I'm super dumb. And
I'm gonna have him on at some point as well, so it'll be interesting to kind of have him as well. I agree with you. You guys, I've because we worked together on an offer over the last year or so, our Gorilla Flow offer, which is still going.
Have you seen that sales are getting nice right now? We cracked. I don't know. This is
no, sure.
Right? We just cracked Outbrain with. Can I say the name of the offer?
Yeah, Gorilla Flow. Yeah,
Gorilla Flow. It's a prostate offer. We just cracked Outbrain with it, so I think we're spending over 10K a day just on Outbrain alone with it.
Nice.
And it's
that's a nice build.
It's picking up, so that's
well. Let's. I'm so busy with my other stuff right now, but we got to find time to dive back into that thing a little bit. But either way, what I love about you guys, because when we started working, because I will say thank you over and over again, because about January of 2020, I guess it's 2022 now, maybe 2021. Either way, between my own stuff and then my beautiful wife Angie getting extremely sick with her kind of thing, I was in a really depressed, horrible state. Angie's illness and injury had pushed me right back into getting stoned in my basement all day and just trying to avoid life because she had gotten to this really dark place. I was partying too much. I was not being myself. And then you and I just reconnected on Skype one day, and you basically asked me if I would do an offer with you. And it took a long time. And I appreciate your patience with me at the time because I was not in a great place. But I will, till the day I die, say that was one of the key things that got me back where I am now, feeling like myself, actually getting work done and finding this shit interesting again, right? Because I just did not.
I'm happy for that, man. I'm happy for you, and I loved writing with you. I thought it was
super fun,
great synergy, and just to kind of connect this theme that you just described. Sometimes that catalyst to getting back to work. Charging your creative juices, exponential growth has to do with another person. And for me, Andrew was that, because I quickly realized, although I have some strengths as an entrepreneur, I have a lot of weaknesses. And one of them is, I'm just not a very structured thinker. I'm
Me
sort
neither.
of hearing this idea and that and this.
Well, you're a creative type, much like myself. Like we both come from theater backgrounds, things like that. I've worked with you many times now. You're great at ideas, things kind of spark, but I don't think either one of us is like, I mean, we both follow through, but it's not our biggest strength, right? Like my job is create stuff and then give it to other people. No, me neither. Which is why Mike Halakakis runs my company for me, and I'm I'm a leader in that I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, and but I'm more the product than anything else in my particular business. Yeah.
Well, and the vision, I think too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we work really well together because he knows he respects that I'm really, really good at what I do, and I respect that he's really good at what he does, and it works really well together.
Yeah. I mean, and not to take anything away from Andrew. Andrew, I think, is a superb creative, and his copy.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote Shep's Diet like 5-6 years ago, which crushed. So, and of course, the offers that we've done with Andrew. But unlike me, Andrew is has evolved into a fabulous CEO, and like I'd be lost without him. Yeah.
No, he's very. I think you guys are a marriage made in heaven, honestly, as far as this kind of stuff goes, and just seeing the company you've built, the people that work with you. I wouldn't want to be handling your monthly nut for whatever, because it sounds like you're pushing a lot of money out to people every month, but still very, very impressive what you guys have built together the last few years.
Well, if you're impressed by that, you should see my nightly nut.
What, an ounce too? I don't even want to get into it.
We have to cut that. Okay, can we tell? Like, is this like we can say?
Whatever the fuck we want. This is my show. It's the Chris Haddad show. Like, it's not. People are not coming to the Chris Haddad show for like reserved, polite conversation. People are not coming on my show. People know who I am, and my personal belief, and what I teach even, is be as genuinely you as you can, and that's what will attract people, and that's what will make you money, and that's the deal. So we're gonna say fuck all we want. We're gonna talk about whatever the fuck we want to. Yeah, man. Well, what? Let me ask you this: besides like my background story, which admittedly is quite interesting. What else can we fucking talk about? Because there's so many things that we. What does success mean to you? What does money mean to you? This is a question I like to ask people all the time, because you know me pretty well at this point, and I think you would agree that I'm not a particularly materialistic person. I don't think you are either, right? Like certainly you like making money. You live in a nice place, from what I can tell, in Puerto Rico, but you're not. One of the things I find very attractive about you as a friend is that you're not talking about your Lambo or your Porsche or all the other. That's the bullshit that people put out there all the time that I personally find kind of reprehensible. So I don't even have a bicycle. You don't even have a bicycle. From what your ex Sadia tells me, your beautiful, wonderful ex Sadia tells me, you never leave the house. So like. True. So what does money mean to you? What does success mean to you? What does money mean to you? And what would ever cause you to retire? I'll never retire. But I'll to answer the former question, I'll say that I had this vision really since 2007 when I started Julian Fox LLC. This vision, and a lot of it was from hanging out with Vin and of like, oh, I've got to become a multi-millionaire. And I, over the years, I attached such holy grail like importance to that, that when it finally happened, I have to say, it was one of the biggest letdowns I've ever had. It was, I just couldn't believe what a letdown it was. And it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change a goddamn thing, right? Especially for a guy that doesn't leave the fucking house. And I mean, granted, for me, the security is nice, because again, I got so sick afterwards too, and that was really, really useful. But it didn't change my lifestyle. And if anything, it just made me personally. It didn't make me happier. It didn't make me like myself more. Right. And that was the worst part, because that was what I was looking for so desperately at that time. So to comment on that, as I was kind of coming up, in the last 10 years or whatever, I had heard people who had already, hit that goal and beyond say things like that, like it's not going to be the key to happiness. Yeah. And I always thought that's some fucking shit that rich people tell the rest of us to keep us down. That's bullshit. Yeah. And, but cliche as it sounds, they were right. And then I have another very close friend and a bit of a mentor to me, actually, Jason Akatif, who he runs A4D, which is one of the premier affiliate networks, and he's building dots now. He's a gangster
entrepreneur and a fabulous friend. And I think you met him actually at Geek Out in
Oh,
Miami.
probably, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tall dude, but
Yeah.
he always said to me, like, because he's already hit all those goals years ago, and
Yeah, it seems like it, yeah.
he likes building things.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's only in the last year or two that the building things bug has gotten into me. And I like building this thing that we're building. And
I'm feeling a similar thing right now, right? Like with the
yeah.
stuff I'm doing now, it's nice to, I wake up at 6 in the morning and I go into my office and I play Elden Ring for an hour, and then I'm like, okay, I'm at work. Let's get to work and kind
How
of
are
do
you
our
doing
shit.
at Elden Ring, by the way?
You know what I did? Because everyone's playing this game right now. You know what's funny? I am hanging out with my geek Xbox friends, like who are people I've known for many years. My buddy Mason back east and some other. We've been hanging out more, all playing Elden Ring at the same time, but not together than we have when we get together to play Halo or something like that. Because everybody's playing this game right now. I've gotten pretty far into it. I'm playing as a sorcerer. I think I'm like a level like 104 because I found this one area where you can just level, and I obsessively sat here while watching YouTube videos just over and over again, kind of going through it. Have you gotten into it yet?
So I downloaded it and played it for a good 8 minutes because I just bought a new PS5. I sent you the
sure,
picture
yeah. Yeah,
the
oh, yeah, it broke, right? Yeah.
And well, they call it the green screen of death. The chip was bad, and so I had to return it. So I own Elden Ring, but I had to get rid. But I have an Xbox.
On the Xbox, you can afford the $60. Get it on Xbox. Plus that way you and I can hang out, and I can come help you slay bosses. That'll be with my wizard can come and slay bosses for you.
Well, you got me into Hades.
I did get you into Hades, one of the greatest games of all time.
You were telling me like how fucking great it was, and I was like,
I got back into Hades recently, and then Elden Ring is what sucked me away from Hades finally, and made me kind of put that one down.
You find it more fun than Hades? Hades still
no, I don't think it's a better game either, but it's a different game, and it's a thing that it's keeping me from just obsessively playing that exact same thing over and over and over again.
So it looks incredible, honestly to me, and the only thing like. I mean, it's talking about fucking nerdy ass video games now, but I don't give a fuck. The only thing that concerns me is I don't like games that are too hard.
Well, that's an interesting thing though, because I don't either, generally speaking. This is actually an interesting conversation, even though I don't think it's directly marketing related, but whatever. Like, I think it's interesting that this game that is very, very hard and is built to be like, I'm completely over leveled for certain areas I'm in, and I'm still getting destroyed in 3 hits, right? Like just because it's interesting to me that they have found a way to make a game being brutally difficult like this in Dark Souls and Sekiro into a positive point for their sales, right? Because I bought Dark Souls 3 and never finished it, and I bought Sekiro and I quit after 3 hours because it was too hard. This one I'm actually getting through because it's an open world, so you can bounce around and find easier shit to do and whatever. But it almost reminds me of the old like Insanity ads back in the day, the Insanity workout ads, because in marketing traditionally the idea is like make it as accessible for everybody. You don't want to offend, like, oh, this is so easy, it's done for you, it's simple, whatever. But then you have like Insanity, which was this is going to be the hardest workout you've ever made in your entire life. I feel like the same way when I sold the pig method, I'm like, this isn't easy, right? Yeah. Like don't show up thinking this is going to be easy. You're going to work, you're going to have to learn how to do this, and it's going to be hard. You're going to get there. And there is an interesting psychological thing where you can make that into a positive for the right kind of person, because you're kind of challenging them in a way, or you're saying, are you good enough, or whatever. It's really interesting.
I agree. It's fascinating, and I think it's such a cool like 180 to what everything else kind of does. But I guess it's for me. I'm just like I'm so busy with other shit that like I want something where I feel like I'm making progress. And I think
you should try it. I'll come help you out, and the internet can tell you exactly what you need to do to go find shit.
What's the other? Okay, there was Bloodborne was the other ones. Bloodborne and Dark Souls were the very similar games. And I got into both of them for a while, but I just, it was so just brutal, like, getting past certain parts. But yeah, I'm down. I'll download it tonight. And
we'll hang out. I might get my level 100. So what you can do is you can call people in, like you can put sigils down by bosses who you can't beat. And then you can call in a friend or even a stranger who will come in and help you out. So I'll do that. I will help you. Me and my buddy Rob and some others will help you out with that. So we've been going for an hour and 15. Should we talk about anything else? I mean, geez, I know the thing is like you and I know you're a talker. I remember when Clubhouse was a thing and you were just you and Paris. This is the most hilarious thing. I'd be like talking to, checking out Clubhouse and seeing that Paris Lampropoulos was on like 9 hours a day just on Clubhouse. And I'm like, dude, aren't you busy with like work stuff or something?
And Paris is still mad at me for that because when I first got into Clubhouse, Jason Active got me on a Clubhouse, and then I got Paris on the Clubhouse, and next thing you know, like Paris and me, him even more so. Like you said, I mean, Paris was on that shit like till like 4 a.m. every night.
Every day, yeah.
Was
why do you think Clubhouse just died? What do you think it was? Because remember the Clubhouse Queen and all that other kind of crap. Like, what do you think made that spike?
I have a strange theory, and we probably should, if you want to talk about some fucking marketing shit.
This is marketing shit. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Why not?
Well, this is actually, I'm about to say, because my theory as to why Clubhouse died is like, we operate right now, at scale in 3 different verticals, Christian health, men's health, and now survival. Survival.
Yeah, that is a cool offer you showed me the other day. I'm not going to talk about what the angle is. It is extremely tight. It'll be interesting to see how great that angle is, depending on what happens in the world. But it is a great example of using current events and the anxiety of what is going on in the world and your marketing in a very effective way. And it's also like, I feel awful just not saying what it is, but I don't want to give away your shit. But either way, it is a.
We can talk about the gist of it. Maybe not the name.
Yeah. Why don't you say what you're comfortable saying about it?
Yeah, I'll say it. So because it's brand new. Like
it's brand new, and I saw the first couple seconds of that VSL, and I was like, this would work. At least right now, this will work. Who knows in 6 months, but right now this will work.
And so that's why speed is like the name of the game here for us. But it's basically, so it's this actually correlates to you, which is it's an established sort of a product type. It's the do-it-yourself home energy kind of product. Now, I know that you wrote
Power for Home.
Hottest one ever. Was it 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
10 years ago. It was an amazing offer. Yeah. I made like 300 grand off that, and I just had a tiny percentage of it. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I believe it. And so basically for our Christian list, we promoted a lot of different third-party offers to that list after we got it like warmed up and delivering. And the strongest offer for our particular list was, or one of the strongest offers was, a do-it-yourself home energy offer.
A competing offer.
Well, let's make our own. We're not going to rip them. Let's come up with our own. And we actually looked at their marketing and felt that we could do better.
Well, and that's how I've always done these things too, right? Is like, especially when I was running really hot, like 6-7 years ago, and every single thing I'd done was great. I would just be like, okay, well, this offer is doing well, but it sucks. Right. From my professional opinion, and then we'll just do my own version and take over that particular niche or take over that.
That was the only additional data point we had was this works super well to our list. So, it's even if it doesn't succeed as a front end and scale, well, it'll be a strong back end offer for our other lead gen.
Okay. So give away the idea, give away of much of the hook as you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
I'll say this. It's a do-it-yourself home energy solution, but it, instead of just, the promise of, I'm going to show you this alternative method to kind of build your power source, which does exist. We tie it to some amazing data that I found before Putin invaded Ukraine, by the way, shortly before that basicyeah, proves that the US power grid is
horrible. It's horrible.
Extremely
especially
vulnerable.
Texas. Yeah.
And then additional evidence that proves that it's being targeted right now by foreign powers and by, white supremacists.
It is going to continue to be as well. So basically the angle is about like the America's power grid being attacked and whatnot.
Yes.
And what I love about it is a couple different things. One, from a pure, like I talked about this for Power for Home. The reason my version of Power for Home worked was because I did not make it into the save the planet kind of offer whatsoever, because that's not where the market is, right? The market for that kind of offer is generally, a lot of them are climate change deniers, if anything, right? So it's not about like the psychology of like selling that kind of thing. Knowing who the market is not, you're going to do a good thing for the environment. I do believe in climate change, by the way, and I think it's horrible that people don't. But it's that, hey, the government is evil, or there are foreign, horrible people out there who are going to attack you, and the only way to keep yourself and your family safe is by making your own power. It's a very different angle on it. Yeah,
it's a great angle. And aren't you happy, Chris? Unlike some other people out there that go and fucking rip you and shit, that we did it, and we had our own fucking unique spin.
Well, that's because I would look at yours and be like, dude, what the fuck? Why did you rip me off?
Man. No, but to me, it's not even. Listen, obviously we're friends. Like I wouldn't do that anyway. But beyond that, like to me, that takes all the fun out of it. Like to me,
that is true. Yeah.
Money is of course a byproduct, but to me, like money is a byproduct of like. Of creating something that's awesome and unique, and like I would just feel like an asshole.
Well, let's talk about this, because I'm known as being a pretty creative copywriter, I would say. I would say that generally speaking, I do things pretty differently than most people. My track record's pretty good. I've certainly had plenty of failures, but I've had plenty of successes as well.
Yeah.
There is an an idea in marketing circles, and certainly I've been ripped off a lot, right? Like all the time. I'm being ripped off right now in Brazil and in all these other kind of places around the world. People make more money off my shit than I do, which always kind of bugs me because like enough of them rip it off that I'm like, that should be my cash, whatever. What do you think about creativity in marketing? Because there is this idea, and there are certain people teaching out there, hey, all you do is you go and you find a letter by Chris or by, one of Brad Howard's things or one of your things or whatever else, and you just kind of swipe it or model it. But oftentimes they're telling people to do more than that, where the people don't understand what swiping is or whatever else. Because swiping is about structure and about how something is put together, not about stealing the actual words or the actual ideas.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I'll comment on that and just say,
Please do.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, everything we've ever created is completely unique. No, like for example, I'll give an example. The VSL tech, which I think was either started by Brad Howard on research or somebody, which essentially takes the VSL, which was always like, like a whatever, widescreen sort of VSL, and it on mobile and desktop, it makes it full screen. And you have to kind of go.
And you got the vertical aspect of it, right?
The vertical aspect. So doing that, right? And Brad actually shared this with me just privately one time. He said gave him a 30% bump on sales. And I was like,
that's insane.
I'm going to do that too, because some things, like just to stay competitive, you have to do. And if I saw like, if there was a VSL that like was crushing it in a niche that we wanted to attack as well, I would definitely study that VSL and I would try and notice like, well, are there certain elements that we can pull? Like, is there a cool structure to the order of the pitch itself, or like the tech that?
But you're not going to steal their hook. You're not going to steal their basic ideas. You're not. But again, though, it sucks though because like. I consider myself a reasonably ethical person. We all have our line. Like you can't be like marketing is marketing. You got to kind of figure out what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. It always bugs me that people who I find ethically atrocious really like me and tell me that they've learned a lot from me. It always really bugs me when that kind of happens.
Right.
Anyway, I forgot what
you were saying that, does it bug me?
Does creativity. Yeah. So do you think that copywriters and marketers should focus on their own creativity, or do you think it is just a matter of taking the same old shit and rehashing it over and over again and ripping people off?
I think there's a healthy balance. There's a healthy balance where you can sort of, learn from other offers and what's working, but have your own unique imprint that you do. And for me, like, I have too much pride to like rip like the same fucking hook and the same copy. There's a limit. You can look at certain things, but basically the limit is this: if this guy who runs that offer were my friend, okay, would they be pissed off at me, with what I did? And if the answer is no, then it's cool. But if they're gonna
also, like in this business, your reputation, again, there's the real black hat people who we don't even really know who they fucking are. They're off in the corners, they're off in Brazil, they're off in whatever else. But if you're like engaged in the market, going to conferences, if you know people, your word matters, your name matters, right? Like we all know people who have like not paid their affiliates. And they're not around anymore. Like nobody trusts them. Nobody wants to work with them because that is like a cardinal sin that you should never ever do. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Like you got to obviously protect your reputation. And with that said, of course, it is sort of inevitable that people do sometimes bump heads in the space and there's disagreements. But I love it, man. Like to bring it back to the idea you brought up earlier about just like money and success. Like for me, like I love creating. I love seeing something take root, like an idea that turns into something and builds into something. And because I used to want to like my whole vision for building wealth and getting rich or all that shit for many years was so I could build a harem. Build like a harem on a small island or somewhere and have a bunch of girls.
Were you thinking this when you were dating Sadia? Because I could not see her in any way putting up with that kind of thing.
That's why Sadia and I broke up.
Fair enough. Wow.
That's why Sadia and I broke up, because
I thought she just got sick of your tiny penis, but maybe that was it.
Well, that too, but there's always more than one reason.
There is always more than one. Yeah.
I knew it was going to get the penises, so I think
it always does. Yeah.
But No, because, and nothing, not to take anything away from her. She's, an amazing
She's
person.
wonderful. I love Saudi.
Fabulous. And she's rising very fast in the industry. Like she
beautiful
is
girl as well. Just a wonderful person. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy for her. Obviously my current girlfriend, I can't really like be in touch with her, my current girlfriend.
Of course. Yeah.
I cut my tiny penis off, but, see, I'm going to keep tying it back, but, just to make the point, like, wait, what was my point?
I don't even know. Creativity or about, we just kind of go all over the place. We have it's a pretty ADHD episode, I think, overall. But,
money. It's 280.
Yeah, success. What is why? Like, what drive? I think we were talking about, because again, I'm not somebody. When I was younger, if you went to 25-year-old me and said you'll be a millionaire someday, you'll have gone on television, you'll be extremely well known in your industry, you'll be whatever else, I'd be like, there's no freaking way. It was not an ambition of mine, it was not a drive of mine. I somehow found my way into a business that I'm really good at, and these things happened, right? So
you earned it,
I earned it, absolutely, yeah.
I earned it, man. Like there's a lot of gurus, including some pretty fucking famous ones out there that like I've had, sort of a behind the scenes look at what's really going on in the business. Was it like, don't meet your heroes kind of shit. Cause I was like shocked at it just wasn't what I thought it was. And a lot of the gurus out there, they just became a guru, right?
What would happen was they got into it because they saw somebody who said, hey, who was a guru. And then what the guru taught was how to become a guru, essentially, or how to sell, make money online stuff. I remember years ago having somebody who I really admired, and I had a conversation with them once I kind of got behind the velvet rope enough, right? I had gotten high enough to get behind the velvet rope. And I found out that their quote unquote main business that they always use as the example in their how to make money stuff had never made any money. Right? Like it was like their like niche business. I forget what it was, but it was like they had their make money business, and then they had another like a consumer thing that was like dog training or like how to play the drums or whatever it was that they always put up as their example of like, okay, this is what I use. And then I'm like, oh, that business has never done well. They just use that as their credibility and proof that they know what they're doing outside of internet marketing circles.
Let me ask you a question then.
Sure, please do. Yeah.
Let's be real here. Yeah. If you had to put a number on it, what percentage of the quote unquote gurus or names sort of in the, internet marketing kind of space are full of fucking shit? If you had to give a number.
At least 50%, at least 50. Least I would say probably more, honestly. I mean, I'm trying to be kind, I think, more than anything else, because some of these people are my friends, but I would say the vast majority of people, look, here's the deal. The people that are out there, like, showing off their cars and the professional tits they're hanging out with and like just bragging about their money all the time, or who are trying to get famous for it, are generally fucking broke, right? Yeah. Like generally speaking, those people are fucking broke. They're just trying to show off all the time. They'll play credit card roulette at the conference and have to pay like $3,000 for dinner, and then they'll have that on their credit card for the next 6 years because they're trying to impress people. Like it's all hat, no cattle, right? In the old thing, the people that are really crushing it are generally not people who, hey, they're not driven by just getting stuff, right? Yeah. Like there's usually some other reason they're kind of doing this stuff at this point in their career, and they just don't need to brag all the time. It's like martial arts people, right? It's like people that more like MMA people. The most dangerous people don't go around bragging about how they can knock you out.
Yeah,
right.
Not at all.
Like they don't need to do
the guys that'll walk away from a fight 90%.
Because your ego is not going to be attacked. Not going to be. It's like I had a thing recently where I had my wife had posted, I posted something on Facebook, and this guy that I know through business, a British guy who has obviously fallen into the QAnon kind of world a little bit, was like ranting on something, and I called him a dick for it. We have a back and forth on Facebook. I like to fuck with people when I feel like they deserve it. As you know, I can't really help myself. It's just like that mean version of me comes out a little bit. And eventually he's like, well, Chris, as you know, I am much more intelligent than you, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I just didn't care because I'm not insecure about my intelligence. I'm just not, right? So he could not insult me on that because I'm like, I'm pretty smart. I'm not a genius. I'm pretty smart. He may well have a higher IQ than me. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? And I feel like it's a similar thing with like MMA guys who are really good. Like, what do they have to prove? Nothing. Yeah. Nothing whatsoever. Like Brock Lesnar's not walking around trying to intimidate people. He just does because he's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. He's pretty scary. Well,
he's a pretty scary guy.
What could a young let me ask you this. Like, what could somebody who's just like trying to get into this space and if they're looking for guidance, what does that person, let's go with your number, 50% are legit.
Yeah.
I personally also think it's that.
I think it's more like 85, honestly. I think I'm trying to think of people I know. Like, who do I know? I'm thinking of big names. There are people I know who I think teach good material, who are really good, but they have never had a success outside of how to make money. They just have never done it. I'm thinking of many people in our business who I cannot think of a single time they've written a letter or had a business that ran an offer that was outside of the how to make money online niche that did well at all. And the how to make money online niche, when I'm selling my shit in this niche, it's a vacation. It's a fucking vacation. It is the easiest thing compared to relationship advice stuff or health stuff that you work on, I've worked on with you, or any of the other stuff. The like, if you give me $1, I will give you 10 is the easiest thing that you can do if you're any good at all at marketing. Right? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to tie it back to Clubhouse from earlier, that is one of the things, one of the reasons that I think Clubhouse fell apart was because the Clubhouse got infiltrated by so many of those like fraudulent gurus, like crazy.
Because you had like Brad Howard coming, like Brad, for people who don't know Brad Howard, he's a good friend of mine, a good friend of yours, brilliant marketer. He has research, a bunch of other ones, but he's never going to go out there and be a guru, right? But you managed to get him to come on to Clubhouse and hang out, which was really pretty damn good content.
Me, Brad, and Scott Ruick, we had I think you came in a couple of times.
I did, yeah.
With this panel, we had a room that was like, I forgot what we called it, the Three Stooges of marketing or something stupid like that. But like there's Brad who's got he's got Java Burn, which is one of the biggest offers. He had
and a beautiful hook, like Brad is so smart about taking what everybody is doing and being like, what is a tweak for this? What can be different about this? Okay, it's not going to be a supplement that you take a pill at. It's the idea that they attach that to like coffee, I think is the most brilliant fucking thing in the world. Because it doesn't need to be coffee at all. It could be fucking anything that you put it in.
One tweak to your morning coffee.
Beautiful.
But to tell the truth, like that room with myself, Brad Howard, and Scott Ruick, like I don't think we ever got like over like 50 people in there. I was on a panel for a couple months with John Benson. It was John Benson had his thing. I think you may have talked in there too.
I think I did, yeah.
Same thing. It was always like 40, 50 people. And then you'd go to these other rooms that had 2,000-3,000 people listening. And it's just
it's all bullshit.
It's the bullshit kind of fraud guy.
It's all bullshit.
Super credentialed guys. So I think and the other reason I think.
But you know what part of that is though? Part of that is the reason they're getting all the attention because they're saying this is easy, anybody can do it, just do this one thing. Whereas like you and I and Brad, we're talking about the actual tactics and the actual work and the failures and the like. Listen, not anybody can do this. I'm fucking sorry. There are way more failures and successes in this business. There always have been and there always will be.
Well, for me as well, like there's blood, sweat, and tears in this shit, man. But that's part of the fun is like the stakes get so high. And
plus, if everybody was good at it, everybody would do it and nobody would make any money. Like it's impossible. Like the cream rises to the top, as it were. Yeah.
So to tie it back to the question, how does a young or someone that's trying to break into this, going with your number here of like, let's say 70%. Let's
say it's more like 75. I'm literally trying to think of who I know who is a guru, who has actual credit, like Dan Kennedy, obviously, right? Like Dan Kennedy's got all the credibility in the world because he's worked in different niches, he's coached people in different niches, et cetera, et cetera. Beyond somebody like that, I don't even really know who has real credibility in the business, who has transitioned over to being a guru. Because honestly, like, dude, the only reason I'm doing this is because people keep asking me to, right? And it's fun. It's fun for me. I've got the personality for it. I can do this kind of thing. And eventually I'm like, if you're just going to keep handing me money, I'm eventually just going to say yes, because this is actually way more fun for me than it is writing health offers or things like that.
And you're someone that really, like, as I said before, deserves that. From my standpoint, tempting as the guru route is. I was a musical theater actor, man.
Absolutely,
I want to be on stage and shit. But I have, as sort of part of my own spiritual growth, sort of resisted that. And part of the reason for it is to tie back to my sort of guru and ghost things. Like if you're running, like we're running pretty fucking high volume right now.
You are,
and like really high volume. So there's a lot of
there's danger too, right? Like when you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day or hundreds of thousands of dollars a day on traffic, things can fall apart real quick if you aren't paying attention.
Well, not only that, Chris, but also it's like no matter how compliant, we run everything through fucking legal. You know what I'm saying? And we try to be as compliant as possible and dot all our I's. But the thing is, if you're selling 1,000 or 2,000 units a day, right, or products a day, you're gonna have some bad people that, some people that don't like it, or they don't get their product, something goes wrong because the volume's so high. In other words, your risk factor, the bigger you scale, if you're running at scale, the more risk that there is. The last thing you fucking really want is more eyeballs on what you're doing.
Well, dude, this Brazil. Were you paying attention to this whole Brazil thing that I was posting about a couple of weeks ago?
I saw your post. Yeah.
So these fucking, like, listen, maybe something will happen to these folks. Maybe it won't. I don't fucking know. The life is not fair. International borders, whatever. There's some lawyers involved who are going to look into things. But the fact that there are people that are so fucking stupid as to be like, ripping people off wholesale and then going on Instagram and saying, hey, I'm ripping these people off. Look, and I want to be famous for it. And I'm going to teach you how to do it. Like, the level of hubris and idiocy is insane. Why would you want the eye of Sauron on you when you're ripping? Like, and I know you're not ripping people off or whatever, but like, why would you be stupid enough to do that? It's insane, except for this deep narcissistic need so many folks have to be famous these days.
Yeah.
And like me personally, I have always had a policy for who I work with, especially in the Michael Fiore stuff back in the day. And I said, if you want to be famous, if your goal doing this is to be famous, I will not work with you. I will not fucking do it, because that is not the mindset I want to be dealing with. People that want that kind of thing, because the only people I know who want to be famous for the sake of being famous have some pretty deep self-esteem issues going on. Right.
Well, and unfortunately, it seems to be a pretty substantial percentage of like young people.
Well, it's the Instagram, it's the Instagram and it's the social media age. That's what is known as success. That's what, if you want people to quote unquote like you, but having experience,
is judged by the number of followers that you have. And,
and having had like a brief amount of fame with the Michael Fiore stuff and like going on TV and shit, it ain't good, man. It is not like, I don't like it. I didn't like it at all, because like, you can't trust fucking anybody. Everybody's just trying to blow smoke up your ass and trying to get something out of you. It's fucking horrible, I think.
Yeah, I'll take the money thing.
Listen, I'll take the money, and I'm willing to do a certain level of like listen, with the Chris, listen, I'm hoping to write a book. My PR agent wants me to go and do like a PR thing at some point, and I'm going to do it because I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I have something to say.
What would your book be about? Copywriting? Or?
I'm not really sure yet. I have one time. No, I don't think it'd be about copywriting. It's interesting. I have like this weird push and pull, right? Because like copywriting is what I'm known for. It's an easy way to get some attention. There are, hundreds or thousands of copywriters who know my name and are willing to kind of follow that stuff. But also what what got me out in the world in the first place was the relationship advice stuff. And I do find that kind of, 5 years from now, I don't think I want Chris Haddad to mean copywriter. Right? Yeah. If that makes any sense. I think that'll always be part of what I do, but I do think I've gone through enough in my life personally that like I love helping people at this point. I love helping people that have mental health issues or who don't think they can be successful or whatever else. And I think I bring a non-bullshit angle to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to be like, just attract these things into you. Like, that's just not who I am. And I think that I can help some people by being more, direct and more honest, just being more myself, basically.
Well, it's part of the evolution. Like for me, my own evolution, like if you think about your perception of your own identity, right?
Yeah,
it changes throughout your life. Like when I was 22, I was a musical theater actor.
Yeah.
And when I was
absolutely
25, or when I was 16, I was an up and coming gangster and a thug. And then I was the musical theater actor. Then I was the male strip club guy. Then I was the pickup artist. Then I was the copywriter. And then from copywriter, like, I kind of fell into what I call, the copywriter trap, which is it's very easy for a lot of writers, particularly because your copywriting is a reflection of your own creativity.
Absolutely.
It's very easy to get stuck into that self-label, right? Yeah. And that for me, I realized eventually, all right, copywriting is great, and that's a tool that I have, but I want to kind of try and evolve beyond that to an entrepreneur. That's the phase I'm in now.
Is that your identity now, entrepreneur, or what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. That's where I'm at, but I already know that will change as well, and that eventually, that may change to investor. Maybe I'll go become a screenwriter in LA. So I want to be open to allow myself to continue to evolve, and I do think a lot of young writers, again, because it's so personal. Your writing is a manifestation of your thoughts, right?
It is, yeah.
It's easy to kind of get caught up in like, oh, this is what I am. But just like you just said, you pointed out for yourself that you may not write a book about copywriting, because
I don't think I will. I've done my pig method stuff. I will do other products on it because it's fun, and like, working with my students gives me incredible, one of my, Moni, who was in my group, and a few other people were mentioning how they like, it's like, wow, Chris, you really care. I'm like, yes, I really fucking care. Like, of course I really care about my students going off and getting results and doing things like that. And it's obviously, I know what I'm doing in it, and it's an easy kind of thing for me to do, but it's not, that is not my identity. Copywriter is not my identity. Entrepreneur is not my identity either. I don't really know what my identity is, except for I'm Chris fucking Haddad. And I feel
you
very
had to
lucky.
describe what your identity is. What would you say?
I don't even know. Like, honestly, I've worked really hard in my life to get to a point where I'm just happy being who I am. Right.
Yeah.
Like I know who I am. I feel very, very good about my masculinity, my level of attractiveness, my level of intelligence. I don't feel
your
like
penis. How do you feel about your penis? How do you feel?
It's a famously beautiful penis. It's the Mona Lisa of penises. It's like people literally just line up. Like, it's actually really fucking annoying, because I had to have this thing set up in my house where there's a box that I stand on, and there's a frame, and I have to stand behind it for like 3 hours every day as people kind of just like funnel through my home, which especially during COVID was kind of annoying because my wife has an autoimmune disease. It's a whole thing, but yeah. I think it's just like, 4 or 5 years ago, I thought I was done with marketing stuff, quite honestly. I'd gotten so sick. I had saved, a decent amount of cash and put it away. I had no self-esteem whatsoever. I was, gone through my divorce, gotten so sick, lost my mind, all that other kind of stuff. And it's taken me and I thought maybe I'll do the relationship stuff, advice stuff more. Maybe there's something else I can do or whatever else. And it's only because of you and because of a few other people that I got sucked back into actually enjoying the marketing stuff. But I'm at a point in my life now where I'm like, okay, maybe I can have some, and this is really hard for me to even talk about because I have been reluctant to feel like I can do anything in my life for a long time, but maybe there is some impact I can personally have, right? Maybe there are people who have dealt with the kind of things that I have personally dealt with who can look up to me, or I can teach them in some way. And yeah, I want to make some fucking money too, because I like money. Who doesn't? But that's more about what it's about for me, is like, I don't know. It sounds so cheesy saying giving back in some way, but the fact is, if you want to be happy, helping other people is the best way to do it. Like there's studies on that.
Yeah. Well, I just, something you just said, like, really kind of struck me, which is, you talked about how you had kind of fallen out of love with marketing, and what I heard in a lot of your posts, on Facebook and social media, I really admire about you, because you one of the things that Chad Kimball, actually, the guy I was understudy, said to me is like, the difference between a good actor and a great actor is that a great actor knows how to bear their soul on stage, right? And I think that's one of the things that really not only differentiates you, but makes you as good as you are, is that willingness to bear your soul, not just in telling people how you really feel or your own fears or your own insecurities, but that shows in your work. And I think that's a major reason as to why you've been as successful that you have. But also what struck me, Chris, about what you just said is like, isn't it, what a lesson to, people that are getting into this space or are struggling in this space, is that fucking Chris Haddad has had those moments of doubt and those fears, and still has them. Fucking Chris Haddad has had that. So like, if that doesn't tell you, hey, this is just part of what it is, these fears and these doubts, and I just got to learn how to deal with them, and they'll probably never fully go away, I think you have a better chance of success. It's very fascinating. I
think that is partly that's just who I am. Partly that's because I tend to be an open book, especially when I was unmedicated. I needed the world to know everything about me at all times. And partly it is because, in my experience, having been dead broke, having no self-esteem, thinking I would never be successful, etc., I remember looking up to people and thinking they didn't, of course, that person's always been amazing. That person has always done this. They don't have any real problems or whatever. They've made some money. So when I did start to get successful, I made it a point to always talk openly about the insecurities and the failures and the doubts and everything else, to be like, no, this shit is real. And nobody gets out. Like, everybody I know has the imposter complex, no matter how high a level they are, no matter how successful they've been. Everybody fucking has that, except for the occasional sociopath.
Sure. That's why I don't have it. But, for me, no, but it's real. I'm joking, but sort of.
No, I know you're not a sociopath. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. I'm pretty good at picking them out.
Well, I've been accused of it by some ex-girlfriends, but
no, so have I. Here's the funny bit. I thought I was at one point, because again, back when my bipolar is bad, I lose all my empathy, which is a very, very scary thing, because a Chris Haddad without empathy is a real horrible concept.
Nightmare.
Honestly. No, it is. It's like all of the understanding of human beings and intelligence and whatever else, but without any kind of limiter or care about what I don't like that person
Sure.
whatsoever. Oh yeah, but I went to do it. And I read a book called The Psychopath Test, which is really good. You should go check it out. And in it, the psychopath test, they talk about like some of the questions that they're in it. The guy says at one point, now you might be wondering if you're a psychopath. And here's the deal. If you're reading this book and reading this book has caused you to wonder if you're a psychopath, you're not.
That's cool. That's a cool test.
Because they just will not see that. Yeah.
One of the things that my dad told me, because I've, been accused, particularly by like, pissed off ex-girlfriends, that, of being, you're a sociopath, you're a narcissist is the one I hear the most.
You have a certain level of narcissism, sure, but you have to to a certain degree. Well, you have to be able to do. I mean, there's healthy narcissism and there's unhealthy narcissism. Again, like narcissistic bipolar Chris Haddad has a very unhealthy level of narcissism, but you have to believe in yourself to a certain degree, and you have to believe, like, marketing is like, what are we doing in marketing and copywriting? You're sitting at your computer, or standing as I am, and you're writing something and you're sending it out into the world, and you have to believe you can write something that's going to make somebody give you money. Like almost, it's like you're casting a magic spell when you're doing it.
Right.
You have to have a certain level of narcissism to believe that you can actually pull that off, quite honestly.
100%. And I've taken some narcissism tests and scored, very highly, or I guess poorly, depending on how you look at it. And, for me, the problem is a lot of the questions that, that they're like, do you believe that you are, special and have this? And I'm like, yeah, but those are good beliefs, especially as you pointed out, doing, what we do. But one of the things that my father taught me is that, there's these sort of conditions like narcissism and, psychopathy or whatever, all these different conditions. What he said was, doesn't matter how you score on these tests. It doesn't, these labels, right? Which, by the way, change every 10 years in the DSM.
The DSM,
right. So it's sort of this man-made
thing. It's a sliding scale thing, right? Like it's like autism or whatever else. If you want to actually have some fun, go to the psychopath or sociopath or subreddit and watch psychopaths talk to each other. It's really interesting.
Oh, I'd love to. I post in there every day. I'm a premium member, but
you're Ginger Little Dick 94 or something like that.
Listen, if you tell people you have a little, tell girls that, I like to lower expectations.
Absolutely.
It's not like a micro penis or anything. It's it's
no, because then they see it and they're pleasantly surprised.
It's like a big dick for like an 11-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if I could be 11 years old with my current penis, I'd be the fucking man in, junior varsity locker room. But just to bring it back for 1 second, don't edit this out. Leave this in.
No, we don't edit shit out in this show.
No edits. So that is what my father explained to me. Just bring it back to these sort of psychological conditions, is that the labels actually don't matter unless the condition is preventing you from being functional in society.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the key. Are you functional or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not.
No, I think you are. I've seen you out in society. So we've been going for almost 2 hours now. I think it might be time to kind of roll things out. We could talk forever, and I'm happy about. I'm glad the conversation went into so many crazy, fucking interesting directions. And I think I was expecting us to have a pretty interesting talk, and we had a pretty interesting talk. And I don't think we even scratched the surface, quite honestly. So you're gonna have to come back at some point when
anytime, brother.
I have a lot of potential guests on my list right now, which is pretty fucking cool.
But there's only one Julian.
There was only one Julian Reyes, who I've always known as Julian Fox before that. Do you want to like, I don't know if you want to like pitch anything, or do you want to like tell people to go check you out somewhere or anything?
No, we don't. We're B2C, man. We're B2C. Like I have nothing to pitch, but I'll just say this. And of course, I'll just say one thing, which is if, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, and you can cut this out if you want, but if you're like a copywriter and you're fucking talented and you want to work with like a great creative team, a great copywriting team.
They're good, man. They're good.
Chris has spoken. He's given guest like teachings to our guys. We have a killer creative team. And you're looking for that, you can just go and apply to be a part of our copywriting team at copygods.com. That's copygods.com. Little application process, little sales letter. We're always looking to expand the writers team. So.
I want a finder's fee if you find somebody awesome and hire them.
Done. $20.
American? Holy crap. With inflation, that's not really the best thing in the world.
I know,
Jeez,
right?
what am I going to do? You know, it's funny. I was, when I'm getting this show ready, I was remembering when I get invited on shows, because it happens reasonably often. And there's been a few where people are like, you have to fill out a form and they want you to be like, please enter your, okay, we need you to promote the show on this day and this day. I'm like, no. Like, what? I'm not doing that. Like, if you want me to come on the show, I'll come on the show. I'll be a great guest. We'll have fun, but I'm not, this is not a quid pro quo, right? Like, I'm not doing that. I'm never going to ask somebody who comes on the show to be like, you must promote in these ways or whatever. Hopefully they will, because they'll want to, and not because of some kind of like pedantic cracking of the whip or something.
Well, my dad was just on Joe Rogan, and I guess he asked before he went on Rogan, he asked if he, could promote something. We all know Joe lets people promote.
Yeah.
So he said, he like Joe doesn't mind at all. So we had a hat made for my dad that said tamebigtech.com on his fucking hat, like on the actual, on the interview.
I'm gonna look this up right now. Yeah.
It's episode, go to Spotify. It's Google blocked it actually on
really?
YouTube. Yeah, they fucking blocked. Well, it's because it's
here it is. Google's Triple Threat by Robert Epstein, PhD. Is that your dad?
Yeah, so it's episode 1768 on. It's a really cool interview about my dad, but my dad definitely milked the plug at the end and had the fucking hat on the whole time.
Well, you were telling me, go ahead.
Yeah. No,
you told me your dad was talking about the security of what Rogan, because didn't Rogan like move to like Colorado or something like that, and there's like security and snipers and shit.
Well, that's the thing, exactly. So like I didn't know any of this. Like when my dad got to Austin or
wherever
Texas,
he's living, whatever
he's living, they picked him up from his hotel. They flew my dad in first class. They picked him up from his hotel in a limo, but then they took this weird fucking route to some secret location. And when my dad got into the facility where they were going to do the recording, Rogan had 4 bodyguards, huge bodyguards there. And when my dad, I think I told you this, my dad asked one of the bodyguards, like, why does, Joe need 4 bodyguards? And they said, well, he's got 12 million active listeners and not everyone agrees with him. So
it's a great line.
It's kind of cool.
Again, that sounds like a certain kind of hell to me. Like, I like being able to go to the fucking supermarket, right? Like, I like being able to just go and do whatever, and having that taken away would be horrible, I think, personally.
Especially because Rogan's become so like divisive.
Polarizing, very polarizing. I mean, he talks about some fucked up shit on his show. He brings on people. There's reasons, right? There's reasons. And he has tremendous influence, right? Like he has more influence than pretty much any cable host or anything like that, besides a few. There's a reason people get mad at him. It makes sense.
I mean, when he talked, and this is maybe my own stupidity, but when like he talked about, his COVID protocol, I was like, let me write that shit down. Like I didn't call my doctor. I was like, oh, Joe Rogan said it. And, forgive me. I think I was drunk.
No, but seriously, that's how these things work, right? People will listen to somebody who's famous above anybody else, and there's confirmation bias as well. Like I always love when people are putting out COVID misinformation, because they're like, well, I found a doctor who said this. I'm like, he's a dermatologist. Like, why are you?
Right.
It's like asking me how to write a fucking like tech manual or something like that, right? I'm a damn good writer. I can't tell you how to write a tech manual. I know nothing fucking about it. But people
could learn it.
Conflate these things. I could, but I don't. But I don't now, and it's certainly not my expertise. It's also like all of our marketing friends who think that they're epidemiologists because they like sold some shit on ClickBank or something. Right?
But before we wrap, I got a question before we wrap, which is, do you So obviously it's brand new podcast. By the way, honored to be one of your first.
Your episode number 2, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sweet episode number 2, but really number 1 in my heart.
Exactly.
But what is your vision with? Is this fun? Like, but what do you do?
It's a few different things. So when I was doing the pig method stuff, so it's a bunch. The reason I'm doing the show, there's quite a few of them, honestly, right? One is it is great for my mental health to be doing this. Like plain and simple, right? It's getting me to connect with friends in the business. It's getting me to think about business stuff. My wife Angie can tell you that I'm just much happier when I'm doing this kind of thing, and I'm feeling more engaged. Otherwise I tend to fall into the basement playing video games and smoking weed and just not kind of being engaged in some way. So that's one reason. Another reason is that I've got the personality for it. Like when I was doing the pig method stuff, when people come into I get a fair number of just random messages on Facebook from people who are fans, which is always a hilarious thing to me. But often they'll say they discovered me because I guested on somebody's podcast. Whatever, I was on Sheffrin's thing, I was on Garfinkel's thing, I was on whatever else. And a lot of people who came into my orbit for the pig method stuff, got onto my group, said that exact same thing. They had seen me speak, they had seen a video of me, they had heard me on a podcast, and that's what brought them in. And so I'm like, okay, well, obviously there is something about the way that I speak about this stuff or present. I do have a certain level of charisma that people find attractive. And the more of that I put out there, the more people are going to come into my orbit, which will both make me money and let me help people. Right.
Yeah.
And then who knows what else? I think, yeah, it's fun.
It's a front end.
It's fun. It's a front. And also I'm going to get, we're going to be starting to do some paid traffic stuff. Episode 3 with Aaron Parkinson happens next week, though I already recorded it. And he's helping me with a lot of the paid traffic stuff we're doing. And again, like, it's actually really interesting because, you and I have worked in direct marketing for a long time, and the knife fight of cold traffic version of it, right? Yeah. Which is like, this person has never heard of you. They've just clicked on a video. They have no idea who you are. They know nothing about you. They never will again. And you got to get the sale. Whereas for the Chris Haddad stuff and the Mr. Moneyfinger stuff I'm doing now, it's very different because people do know my name to a certain degree, or they come into my orbit, or they read me what I write on Facebook, which is often not about marketing. I very rarely write about marketing on Facebook.
It's a brand.
It's a brand, but it brings people into a certain degree. And so I mean, for whatever I want to do in the future, 5 years, 10 years down the line, having a podcast is going to be a useful way to do it. Right.
Sure.
It opens doors. It creates relationships. Plus, like, you and I would have long conversations, but when was the last time you and I had a 2-hour conversation about interesting shit? Right. Like, this actually kind of creates the room for those kind of conversations as well.
That's great, man. Well, listen, I wish you the best with it. I think you're going to crush it, dude. You're a genius and entertaining as well.
Thank you very much. You as well. I knew this was going to be a fun episode for folks because we crack each other up. It's great.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. And again, I appreciate you. You have been a wonderful, you're one of my favorite people in the world. I hope we get to hang out in person again soon. Yeah. Now that COVID is lightening up a little bit, and my wife has gotten her 4th shot, which is great.
Great.
Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we're going to talk about like